Man, yeah, scenes like that coming in at a Montego Bay in Jamaica. We had feared that it would look just like that. In fact, I believe, to my knowledge, it's the first video I'm seeing, at least on our air, out of Montego Bay.
From silent waves turning into roaring monsters to cities swallowed by walls of water. Here are the 10 most devastating hurricanes ever caught on camera. Number 10, Hurricane Katrina, 2005, U.S. In August 2005, what began as a tropical depression over the Bahamas turned into one of the deadliest hurricanes in U.S. history, Hurricane Katrina.
The small girl is now getting in with the younger girl. It looks like a bomb completely blew up this side of the building. It's absolutely undescribable here. I can't even put into words what we're feeling here in this aircraft, and just seeing what we're seeing, it's just, there's nothing left.
Formed on August 23rd, it quickly grew to Category 4 strength before striking Florida as a Category 1. Heavy rain, power outages, and flooding marked the start of the disaster. Once it hit the warm Gulf waters, Katrina exploded into a monster. By August 28th, it became a Category 5 hurricane with winds over 170 miles per hour, a swirling giant aimed at Louisiana. At dawn on August 29th, Katrina made landfall near New Orleans.
We're not going to be on a drive. Comes some surge.
Levees meant to protect the city failed, and by that afternoon, 80% of New Orleans was underwater. Tens of thousands were trapped in homes, on rooftops, and in the Superdome. Food and water ran out. Helicopters rescued survivors as chaos unfolded below. Nearly 1,400 lives were lost, and damages exceeded $125 billion. Entire neighborhoods vanished under the flood. Even decades later, Katrina's scars remain, reshaping New Orleans, its people, and America's understanding of disaster response forever.
For many people in New Orleans right now is, should they evacuate?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a test. This is the real deal. New Orleans is definitely the target for this hurricane. We are strongly encouraging everyone to voluntarily evacuate at this time.
Now he's telling me to get out. I've never left during a hurricane. I've always weathered the storm. It should be up to me as an American to leave when I think I feel.
Like Peggy, many might have been torn between staying or leaving. But there is no denying that it's a matter of life and death, whether one chooses to stay or not. Number 9, Hurricane Harvey, 2017, Texas. In August 2017, a storm formed over the Atlantic, quiet at first, then suddenly alive. Within days, it became Hurricane Harvey, the first Category 4 storm to hit the U.S. in over a decade.
Hey!
We're almost in the eye here. We're on the inner surface of it.
As it neared Texas, Harvey exploded in strength. By the night of August 25th, it made landfall near Rockport with winds reaching 145 miles per hour, ripping homes apart and toppling everything in its path. But Harvey's real weapon wasn't wind, it was water. The storm stalled over Texas, dumping record-breaking rainfall. Some areas saw more than 50 inches of rain, more than they'd normally get in an entire year. Houston became a city of rivers. Highways turned to lakes. Boats replaced cars. More than 200,000 homes and businesses were damaged, 30,000 people were displaced, and nearly 90 lives were lost. By the time Harvey finally drifted away, the cost had soared to $160 billion, second only to Hurricane Katrina. A reminder that sometimes the worst storms aren't the fastest, but the ones that refuse to move. Number 8, Hurricane Dorian, 2019, Bahamas. August or September 2019. Dorian roared to a Category 5, peaking at 185 miles per hour, the most intense on record to strike the Bahamas.
Thursday into Friday that the main concern is. And surge is one big issue. 5 to 8 feet is possible. That includes Myrtle Beach, which is where we're going to be headed next. You also want to watch out for the rainfall, which I'll be talking about in the coming moments. But
September 1st, it smashed into the Abaco Islands, then Grand Bahama, and stalled for nearly a day, shredding homes, driving a catastrophic surge, and flattening entire neighborhoods. At least 84 dead, 245 missing, and approximately 70,000 left homeless. Damage greater than or equal to $5.1 billion. The costliest disaster in Bahamian history. Weakened but still dangerous, Dorian crawled up the U.S. East Coast, making a Category 2 landfall at Cape Hatteras on September 6th, then hammered Atlantic Canada as a powerful post-tropical storm. A storm so strong its name was retired, and a brutal lesson in how deadly a slow, stalling hurricane can be.
Ride out the storm in his hospital bed.
They tell you to pack up and go if you can. My situation, I can't.
Back in the Bahamas and those islands in crisis, the scale of this catastrophe is becoming known with each passing hour. Those who call this now unfamiliar place home face a long road to recovery.
Number 7, Hurricane Ian, 2022, Florida. September 2022, a tropical wave in the Caribbean quickly spun up into Hurricane Ian, tearing across western Cuba as a Category 3 and knocking out power nationwide.
Seen life-threatening storm surge, as was predicted. We've also seen major flooding that's going to rank as one of the top 5 hurricanes to ever hit the Florida Peninsula.
Are you guys okay?
Over the hot Gulf, Ian exploded into a Category 5 monster with 160 miles per hour winds, then slammed into southwest Florida on September 28th, just below peak strength. Storm surges up to 10 to 15 feet swallowed coastal towns like Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel, shredding homes, snapping bridges, and forcing people onto rooftops. Ian crossed Florida, reformed over the Atlantic, and made a final landfall in South Carolina, still powerful enough to rip trees, flood streets, and knock out power across the Carolinas. In total, 161 people were killed, and damage hit $112 billion, making Ian the costliest hurricane in Florida's history and the 3rd costliest in U.S. history.
The deadly toll of Hurricane Ian, the massive destruction here in Florida, coming into clearer focus. The deadly storm making history as one of the most powerful hurricanes ever to make landfall here in southwest Florida.
Number 6, Hurricane Maria, 2017, Puerto Rico. September 2017, a tropical wave in the Atlantic turned into Hurricane Maria, and within 24 hours it exploded from Category 1 to a catastrophic Category 5. Dominica took the first direct hit. Winds of 165 miles per hour shredded nearly every roof, flattened entire towns, and wiped out the island's crops and forests in a single night. 2 days later, Maria slammed into Puerto Rico as a high-end Category 4. Wind gusts over 110 miles per hour, over 30 inches of rain, and massive flooding collapsed bridges, destroyed homes, and triggered thousands of landslides.
The first pictures now coming in from Puerto Rico after taking a direct hit. Hurricane Maria slamming into the island, and as you heard, one official saying the island is destroyed. Maria is the first Category 4 to hit there in nearly a century. 150-mile-an-hour winds ripping buildings apart, knocking out power everywhere. All of the electricity is out tonight.
The island's entire power grid failed. The worst blackout in U.S. history. Puerto Rico plunged into a humanitarian crisis. No electricity, little access to water, hospitals on generators, and communities cut off for weeks. The death toll later climbed to over 3,000, making Maria the deadliest U.S.-affecting hurricane of the 21st century. With over $91 billion in damage, Maria ranks among the costliest storms ever recorded, and its impact reshaped the Caribbean forever. Number 5, Hurricane Michael, 2018, Florida Panhandle. October 2018, a small disturbance in the Caribbean suddenly roared to life. Within days, it became Hurricane Michael, and it wasn't slowing down. Crossing the Gulf, Michael rapidly intensified into a Category 5 monster with 160-mile-per-hour winds.
A strong Category 4 storm, so likely making landfall as a strong Cat 4, and the Florida Panhandle has not seen a Category 4 storm in recorded history. So since record keeping began in 1851. So this is an unprecedented storm. It continues to strengthen in the Gulf. Water levels are quickly rising. The winds are increasing along the Florida Panhandle, and
the strongest hurricane to ever strike the Florida Panhandle, and the most powerful U.S. landfall since 1992. On October 10th, Michael slammed into Mexico Beach and Tyndall Air Force Base. Entire neighborhoods were shredded to their foundations. Storm surge 9 to 14 feet deep swallowed coastal towns, while winds ripped apart buildings far inland. Panama City, Port St. Joe, and dozens of small communities were left in ruins. Michael killed 74 people across Central America and the U.S. and caused over $25 billion in damage. A brutal reminder that late-season hurricanes can still become absolute monsters.
Gulf Coast is already seeing flooding and high winds as Hurricane Michael approaches. The monster storm was upgraded to a Category 4 overnight, and hundreds of thousands of people have been told to evacuate.
Number 4, Hurricane Irma, 2017, Caribbean and Florida. September 2017, a tropical wave off Africa rapidly grew into Hurricane Irma, and within days it became one of the most violent storms ever recorded in the Atlantic. Irma exploded into a Category 5 hurricane with 180 miles per hour winds, holding that strength for an extraordinary 60 hours. It slammed into Barbuda at peak intensity, flattening 95% of the island and leaving it uninhabitable overnight. The same morning, Irma devastated St. Martin, St. Barthélemy, and Anguilla. Homes shredded, cars tossed, marinas destroyed, and infrastructure wiped out. As it churned west, Irma tore through the Virgin Islands, grazed Puerto Rico, then made yet another Category 5 landfall in Cuba, only the second storm in history to do so. After briefly weakening, Irma crossed the Straits of Florida and re-intensified into a Category 4 before striking the Florida Keys. Massive storm surge, inland flooding, tornadoes, and widespread blackouts followed as the giant system swept across the state and into the southeast. In total, Irma killed 134 people and caused over $77 billion in damage, becoming one of the costliest and most destructive hurricanes in Caribbean and U.S. history. Number 3, Hurricane Andrew, 1992, Florida. August 1992. A small tropical depression off Cape Verde quietly grew into one of the most violent hurricanes the Atlantic had ever seen. After briefly weakening mid-ocean, Andrew suddenly roared back to life, exploding into a Category 5 monster as it approached the Bahamas. On August 23rd, it smashed into Eleuthera with 161 mile-per-hour winds, flattening homes and tearing apart entire communities.
Andrew was just hitting South Florida.
Now, it started as a tropical wave just off the coast of Africa, and over the course of 10 days, it moved across the Atlantic and then hit as a Category 5 hurricane with 165 mile-per-hour winds.
Unbelievable. So we looked at some of the scary statistics behind it, and 66 people died because of this storm, 44 of those right here in Florida.
Crossing the warm straits of Florida, Andrew strengthened again. By dawn on August 24th, it struck South Florida with 166 miles per hour winds and gusts up to 177 miles per hour, shredding Dade County, leveling 25,000 homes, and damaging 100,000 more. Homestead was left unrecognizable. Andrew then crossed the peninsula, weakened to a Category 3, and made a final landfall in Louisiana on August 26th, still strong enough to spawn destructive tornadoes and damage entire neighborhoods. In total, Andrew caused $26.5 billion in U.S. damage and led to 65 deaths. Its impact was so immense that the name Andrew was retired, and disaster response across the country was forced to change forever. Number 2, Hurricane Sandy, 2012, U.S. East Coast. October 2012, a tropical wave in the Caribbean developed into Hurricane Sandy. Within days, it became a Category 3 storm and struck Jamaica and Cuba with 115-mile-per-hour winds, damaging homes and knocking out power on a large scale. As it moved north, Sandy expanded to a record size, about 1,150 miles wide, the largest Atlantic hurricane by diameter. By the time it neared the U.S., it had started transitioning into a hybrid system, part tropical cyclone, part mid-latitude storm, influenced by unusually warm waters and a blocking high over Greenland that forced it to turn toward the coast.
Course with the East Coast, Hurricane Sandy threatening to blast millions of Americans with rain, snow, and wicked winds. It's an unprecedented superstorm in the offing, and if it happens, it could last for days.
On October 29th, Sandy made landfall near Atlantic City, New Jersey, as a post-tropical cyclone with hurricane-force winds. The resulting storm surge flooded New York City subways and tunnels, cut power to lower Manhattan, and caused severe coastal damage across Staten Island, the Jersey Shore, and Long Island. In total, Sandy killed 254 people across the Caribbean, the United States, and Canada, and caused about $68.7 billion in damage, making it one of the costliest storms in U.S. history. Number 1, Hurricane Mitch, 1998, Central America. October 1998, a tropical wave in the Caribbean quietly formed on October 22nd. Within days, it became Hurricane Mitch, and what followed would become the deadliest Atlantic hurricane since the Great Hurricane of 1780.
October 10, 1998. Forecasters at the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, are tracking a tropical wave off the coast of Africa. It remains very poorly organized until it reaches the Western Caribbean Sea more than a week later.
Hurricane Mitch formed from an African wave, which many hurricanes do, but what was unusual was the lateness of the season.
By October 24th, Mitch rapidly intensified into a Category 5 hurricane with 180-mile-per-hour winds, becoming one of the strongest Atlantic hurricanes ever recorded. But Mitch's true horror wasn't its wind speed. After making landfall in Honduras on October 29th, the hurricane slowed to a crawl and stalled over Central America. For days, it hovered like a stationary water pump, producing rainfall that reached rates of 4 inches per hour, with totals exceeding 50 inches in interior areas. The results were catastrophic. Rivers became raging torrents. Hillsides liquefied into massive mudslides. In Pozoltega, Nicaragua, a single mudslide killed more than 2,000 people, burying entire villages under walls of earth and water. Mitch caused 11,374 fatalities in Central America, including approximately 7,000 in Honduras and 3,800 in Nicaragua. In Honduras alone, 25 villages were destroyed, and nearly all roads and bridges were washed out.
Hurricane Mitch became a monster Category 5 storm in the middle of the Caribbean near the end of October. That's a very rare event. Nobody expected that Mitch to get that strong.
The Honduran president stated that Mitch destroyed 50 years of progress in a single week. The economic devastation totaled over $6 billion. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter estimated it would take 15 years to fully recover. Hurricane Mitch was the second deadliest Atlantic hurricane on record. Its name was permanently retired, and its legacy remains a brutal reminder. Sometimes the deadliest storms aren't the fastest or strongest, but the ones that refuse to move. And those were the 10 most devastating hurricanes ever caught on camera. Each one reshaped coastlines, destroyed cities, and changed thousands of lives forever. As storms get stronger and faster, these moments aren't just history, they're warnings. Stay informed, stay prepared, and stay safe.